Hey everyone, great news. I got COVID. And it's been about 4 days since I've had COVID already, nearly 5 days, and I can't wait any longer to make YouTube videos again, so I really need to start making them again. So anyways, today I'm going to be doing a movie roundup video where I talk about the movies and TV shows I watched in the last couple of weeks or so. Starting off, I watched La Hora de los Hornos, or The Hour of the Furnaces, except I only watched the first 2 minutes for my film history class, because the professor only played the first 2 minutes. Now, this movie is a very aggressive political statement, and because of that, it is literally right up my alley. I hope I could see the whole thing someday. I feel like this movie is gonna hit me like a ton of truck, so yeah. And then in the same class, because we're talking about Argentina, we watched the film La Mujer sin Cabeza, or The Headless Woman. And this film is an insanely boring film. It is one of the slowest and most difficult to digest films I've ever seen in my life. Now, granted, there are some interesting themes in this movie about covering up and confusion, but again, it's just so freaking slow, and it's not even slow in an enchanting, alluring way, in a way that it makes me want to rewatch it. It's just slow, and that's it. 6 out of 10. Afterwards, I watched Snowpiercer by Bong Joon-ho, and it's frickin' awesome. This movie is nowhere near as good as Parasite, Memories of Murder, or Mother, but it's still very good. It's very well paced. Tilda Swinton is amazing in this film, and seeing Song Kang-ho act alongside Chris Evans is unreal, and they're both amazing. Yeah, sure, the ending is a bit tacked on and some dialogues are a bit awkward, but overall it is an amazing dystopian action thriller with just the right amount of weirdness. 8 out of 10. Afterwards, I went to the cinemas and watched The Banshees of Inisherin, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's a great film about a breakup of a friendship. I love the simplicity of it. And I love the beautiful Irish countryside portrayed in the film. I think the humor works really well, and it is one of the most well-directed films of the year. 9 out of 10. Afterwards, in an extreme haste and hurry and frenzy, I rushed my way over to the Asian World Film Festival's opening ceremony to watch the film Decibel, except some error happened and they couldn't play the film Decibel, so instead they played Hunt, which is Lee Chung-tae's directorial debut. Yes, Lee Chung-tae from Squid Game. And this movie is mid. It's an impressively over-the-top action thriller with non-stop gunshots and explosions and car chases, but damn, it is extremely messy and confusing. And some scenes are just too over the top. Another reason probably why I didn't enjoy this movie as much is because I and other people, part of the volunteer team, sat at the very side of the theater, which means that when I look at the screen, it's not a rectangle, it's a freaking trapezoid. So yeah, didn't enjoy very much. 5 out of 10. Anyways, I watched Guardians of the Galaxy finally, and it is a bit underwhelming. It's not as fun or as bold as I would have hoped it to be. Maybe it's because I'm watching it in the year 2022 when Marvel humor already feels kind of bloated and outdated. I mean, that being said, it's still a fun movie, but it's just nowhere near as fun as I thought it would be. And everything else about the movie, like the story and everything, it's just alright. 7 out of 10. Then I watched Mysterious Skin. Going into the movie, I expected a weirdly artsy psychological drama, but ended up being really sad and hollow after the movie. I mean, this movie fucked me up more than Requiem for a Dream, and that's saying a lot. I mean, sure, given that this movie is directed by Greg Araki, there are some moments in the movie that remind me of 13 Reasons Why, which is awful, and some scenes do feel kind of slow and unnecessary. But there's just something so gentle and soft and beautiful, but yet sad about the movie. I'll never forget the ending scene and how disgustingly sad and tragic it is. 8 out of 10. Anyways, I continued to volunteer for Asian World Film Festival, and I watched the movie Ajuma, which is actually a Singaporean film. Not only that, but right after the film, there's also a Q&A section with the director himself, who showed up in person. This movie is a surprisingly fun, wholesome, heartwarming Koreeda-esque road trip type movie. However, the color grading is a bit bland and some of the storylines feel unresolved, but overall it's a really hearty and human drama and it's really likable. 7 out of 10. Immediately after that, I went to the theater next door and watched 5 minutes of the movie Life, which is a Kazakhstan film. This is the first time in my life watching a Kazakhstan film, and oh boy, it freaking sucks. First of all, this movie is 3 hours long. It's a 3-hour long, artsy, experimental movie, and there's only one dude in the entire freaking theater at the very back, and he's probably asleep. I've stood at the theater watching this film for about 5 minutes, and for the entirety of those 5 minutes, it's basically a slow motion scene where a bunch of people just do some contemporary dance on top of some weird meditative music. It just feels like it's artsy for the sake of being artsy, and it's 3 freaking hours long. So yeah, even though I only watched 5 minutes, I can already tell what kind of movie it is. 3 out of 10, not recommend. Then, on the same day, I watched Last Film Show, except I only watched about 15 minutes of it, so I couldn't say much other than good cinematography, maybe. And then, out of curiosity, I went to another theater to watch Home for Sale, which is a Kyrgyzstan film. This is also the first time in my life watching a film from Kyrgyzstan. And this movie is so freaking slow and boring. I nearly fell asleep at the end. This movie takes your usual loan shark out of money type story and makes it very tedious and repetitive. 5 out of 10. And then on the next day I watched 2 minutes of Decibel. Yes, so originally they're supposed to play the movie Hunt, but because they were gonna play Decibel for the opening night, but they couldn't play it and they played Hunt instead, so now they were going to play Decibel instead of Hunt. And I only watched 2 minutes, and then after that I immediately left the cinema and I rushed my way to JT's place for her birthday dinner. And that is where I got COVID. Alright, a couple days later, last Tuesday, I watched the movie Tukibuki for my film history class. And yeah, at this moment, I actually already had COVID. I was really tired and cold, and partially because of that, I ended up falling asleep in the middle of the film. But from what I've seen, this is a surprisingly lighthearted and weird and violent and unsettling and bizarre movie, and I really need to rewatch this one, and I hope more people around the world care about African cinema. Then I watched Dead Poets Society at home while I was quarantining myself because of COVID. And this movie is fantastic. It is realistic, humane, and hearty, and I have a soft spot for these kinds of movies. Robin Williams is brilliantly charismatic in this film, and I also love how this film portrays the character's psychology and personalities in such a simple but effective way. There are so many teen dramas and school dramas around the world, but only so few of them are actually good, you know. So Dead Poet Society is definitely a rare one of the bunch. 9 out of 10. Also, aside from these, I also finished watching the anime Yaboy Kongming, and then last night I finished watching Stalker. But I'm not going to talk about them now, I'm going to talk about them in a movie roundup video in the future. So this is pretty much it. What if you watch? Comments below, let me know, subscribe if you want more, and thanks for watching. And I hope I recover as soon as possible, otherwise I'm dead. So yeah.